right, here we go. Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's so good. This is the gentleman's home car. Oh yeah. All right, boys and girls, we're going to be taking Project Z4M Coupe out for a little shakedown ride today. I'm really excited about this. This is a car that I have held off modifying for longer than just about any car that I've owned. To give you guys some time frames, I bought it in 2013 and it is 2024. Everything that I've done up to this point prior to the most recent additions was just some suspension and a set of Apex wheels. In the latest little mini build segment, project segment, it's not really a build, but project segment, we added a set of TE37 SL wheels, 18 by 9.5, plus 22 front and rear. They are wrapped in a set of 255, 35, 18 Kumo PS91 tires. The car rides on a set of Bilstein PSS 10 coilovers, and other than that, it's just a couple aesthetic mods. The carbon front lip from Schmiedman, the Turner Motorsports duckbill, carbon fiber duckbill out here at the back. And then the mods that we just completed doing were a Turner Motorsports CSL carbon fiber airbox. I have a set of Super Sprint V2 stepped race headers for the S54. Let's pop this on. Set of aftermarket pedals and a BMW M Performance shift knob here from an M2. For the headers, we mated them to a custom Section 1 that I modified off of a E46 M3 CPI. I said CPI. E46 M3 resonated Section 1. We chopped it all up. We made it work with the Z4M. I got rid of the H-pipe section in it because I'm utilizing the factory X-pipe, which has a resonator in this mounted to the stock mufflers. So the exhaust note you'll see in the video shortly is just awesome. It's maybe one notch louder than stock. There's no rasp, no drone. And now with the new beautiful Turner CSL style airbox, the individual throttle bodies off of the 3.2 liter naturally aspirated S54 really comes to life and gives this car the driving experience and the theater that you would want out of something that is this. It's like a little miniature grand touring car without the weight, and I absolutely love it. So let's get out on the road and take her for a proper test drive. All right, we are out here on the road in my 07 Z4M Coupe, and I have to say immediately that I'm just so happy with the sum of what the parts equal to in this little mini project that we did. you know, I kind of like kicking myself because I wish I did this earlier, because I just feel like it really made me fall in love with the car all over again. Where before it was just, you know, being stock other than suspension, it just was like another car that I had, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to drive it as much because they're rare and they're going up in value. But, you know, that airbox, the header, and the catless mid-pipe, like, just really brings this thing to the next level of like special feeling. And I think that's something that we're missing in a lot of modern cars, is that special feeling that really gets you. So I always talk with Matt and the guys about what's the golden ratio, and I think it's 10 wheel horsepower for every 100 pounds that the car has. And this is 3220 curb weight with fuel, and with these mods I should make around 330 to 340 at the wheels. Stock dyno was 292 with all the cats in it. Let's just hear it. Third gear. Very adequate power. It is 34 degrees out right now, so we're going to be a little bit cautious. I mean, this is a fast car. Certainly not slow. That's 120. Pretty quick for a little back road. But I guess what I love about, and what I've always loved about BMW M cars, is their willingness to be playful and to allow you to hoon them if you want, but they still have that inherent sports car handling balance and just like performance-y feel to it. The Z4M is very special because it's such a rigid chassis. It's way more rigid than anything else in the BMW lineup. It's practically double the chassis rigidity of the E92 M3, just to paint the picture of it. And I almost want to say that this shell is more rigid than my Supra, but it's hard to tell with modern cars because the damping in the suspension with the electronic dampers is so good, where this is just some Bilstein PSS 10s. You know, you really feel everything. It's very communicative, even through the stock wheel. The Z4M is not an electronic rack like the regular Z4. The M has a hydraulic rack because they wanted you to have that steering feel. There's a good proper weight through it, and I always say that most factory wheels mute the hand, you know, the feelings that you get through it. But even with the factory wheel and this chassis and this suspension, you really feel everything. My water bottle's flopping around here. Easy to feel what the front wheels are doing. Right off the 8,000 RPM rev limiter. I mean, this car has very good power, and it exceeds that golden ratio that we talked about. This is my first naturally aspirated car that has that ratio or exceeds it. So the next closest thing I have to it is my AP1 S2000, and that is 2590 for the curb weight, and it makes 238 horsepower at the wheel. So it's close to that ratio that we talked about there, but this is actually exceeding it, and it's just a whole other level. I'm real happy with the exhaust setup on here, and I don't know if I'm going to change the X-pipe in the mufflers, because the S54 especially gets real tinny and real buzzy, raspy, like kind of like cheap sounding, where this, you know, it turns the stock exhaust note up like 1 degree. And I guess before I talk about that, if you compare the way a stock Z4M sounds to an E46 M3, the E46 M3 has a much different exhaust pretty much after the header's back, and it sounds very different. The E46 M3 is a more raspy, buzzy car, where this is not at all from the factory. So I didn't want to ruin that, because, you know, I'm not setting lap times and trying to break track records with this car. This is really like a gentleman's take on a Grand Touring car, but for a guy who likes sports cars, right? I always say, I sound like a broken record, but I always said I love Grand Touring cars, but I hate the weight of them. So this gives you a very Grand Touring-esque atmosphere, but with a small, nimble chassis that's rigid and has sports car-like, handling characteristics. So it's like a really good in-between. It's certainly not anywhere near as serious as, say, like my, S2000 is, or the Miatas, or the RX-7, but it's like a really nice, like, in-between blend. Turn around here. And we'll do a little launcher-rooney here so you guys can hear the airbox from a standstill. It's going to be nothing but wheel spin because it's 34 degrees outside. But man, it sounds so good. Let this guy go. Come on. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. The engine has a very European sound to it. It's very different than anything else that I own. Like, you really has like kind of that Porsche-like note, but to me, much better sounding because it's a inline six, which is my favorite six-cylinder configuration. There's just something about a nice tuned, naturally aspirated six, even a turbo six. The crankshaft is inherently balanced, and they're just so smooth versus anything that's in a V or a flat configuration where you have opposing forces on the crank. And I just like, I don't know, man. This car like is probably what I've been looking for deep down inside for a long time. But stock, like, it was just missing something. And it also helps that when I did these mods and I put the square wheel and tire setup on it, I was looking at the front, so I was like, man, the front passenger side has a lot less camber, and I'm just using a set of Turner camber washers on this. I don't have camber top hats because you can get a ton of camber with just the washers. I went underneath there and I realized I wasn't using all three of the washers. I was only using one of them on that side for some reason. I think when I set it up, I felt like I didn't need that many, but I just put all three in there, and now the camber I put up my gauge on there is matched on both sides. And having a lot of front camber, especially in a McPherson strut car versus your rear, just really makes the balance so easy and predictable when it slides. BMW stock M brakes are really good. This uses the same brake disc diameter and pad as the M3 CSL, so it's actually bigger than a standard E46 M3. It's the CSL brakes, although it is still something that I'm probably going to put a set of 911 calipers on here because there's a retrofit adapter kit that you can get for them. Shifter is a BMW shifter, but I would say this is probably one of the better ones. It's still rubbery, but it's not intrusive. This does have a clutch delay valve delete in it. That's one of the first things I did with the car because I hate driving a manual transmission with a clutch delay valve on the slave. Oh my Lanta! All the noises, it makes all the right noises. And then when you let off and you just kind of cruise around, it's tame. It's very tame. And you don't have any unwanted drone, buzziness, nothing in the cabin. I think I was talking about this before and I got distracted, which is typical for me. But it's nice to be able to cruise a car comfortably and quietly. Easy passing power third gear. Flash because maybe there's a cop up here, so we're going to slow down. And I love this car because the cockpit is very driver centric. You have a nice big center console here that separates you and your passenger. The dash is simple, but it's sporty looking. This car has the carbon fiber leather package, which is something that, not that I care about carbon fiber leather, but if you don't have this, this whole piece here, this crash pad, is brushed aluminum. This is all brushed aluminum. I just think it makes the interior look cheap. So this is a nice, just like way to make it more subtle. The M Performance shift knob is something I recently added. It's Alcantara wrapped, and then there's dry carbon fiber on the sides, and it matches the carbon leather perfectly. We put one of these in Zach's G87 M2, and I just threw it on here real quick just to see what it looked like, and I was like, oh my god, that like knob looks like it was meant for this car. And the other nice thing is that it lowers the shift throw quite a bit. It has a little bit more weight than the rubbery stock shift knob. You don't have lights in it, so I gave up the lights, but like none of my other cars have lighted shift knobs, so I don't really care about that. Just the match and like the lowered throw is much nicer. I think it looks fantastic in here, and it's just a nice feel to it. Makes the shifting feel just a little bit better. You know, we're not like rewriting the book here, but you know, excellent, excellent. So this is a cool car because you can cover a lot of ground quickly in it. A lot of BMWs and European cars, Porsches, they are just so stable at speeds, and they make excellent touring cars because you could just cover ground quickly, comfortably. You don't feel like you're at the ragged edge. Where like, you know, if you get into something that's a little bit shorter wheelbase, a little bit more frantic in its handling characteristic, but you know, high grip like the S2000 or the Miata, they're not covering ground quickly. It's just, you just always feel like you're kind of got to be a little bit more on top of it, where the BMW and the Porsche stuff, they're way more, they're just way more stable. They built in that stability to them. See, I kind of like this turn here. Let's go into a little bit of speed. So third gear, brake in a straight line into second. A little bit of oversteer on exit. Ooh, hit the rev limiter. So one thing I hate about the Z4M is that first and second, you have a soft rev limiter that kicks in at 7,500. With the tuning that I have on here now, it lets you go past 7,500 to 8, but there's no power anymore from 75 to 8. In gears 3 and up, it will continue to make power and up to 8,000, and there's no soft rev limiter. So I actually have to email Randy at Aptic back and just say, hey, is there any way to lift this from the car? Because as you just saw, I wasn't expecting to hit rev limiter, but I felt it, so I went to go shift, and they like, you know, caught me off guard, and I botched the shift, right? I missed third a little bit. So if I had a nitpick, that's a nitpick there. You know, I can nitpick a lot of things about this car in terms of just like a performance vehicle. You know, it is front engine rear wheel drive, which is what I love. I love front engine rear wheel drive because I just feel like that's the most fun drivetrain layout to drive. Every time I get behind the wheel of an MR or an RR car, I'm like always nervous, because if you do, how do I say, coerced weight transfers to get the car to point in the way that you want without having like being on a racetrack where you can have a wide area that you can let the car hang out and slide, they get really unhappy and they get edgy and snappy, and it's just not the drivetrain layout that I'm used to. I'm sure if I owned one and I lived with it on a regular basis, I would adjust my driving style accordingly. But even adjusting, it's not as fun as an FR car. And you know, I go back and forth with Tommy F. all the time because he's really gotten into the 911 stuff and he loves it. But for me, I mean, you know, there's something about the 911. I've talked about this in this build segment. Like the classic iconic shape of a 911 is a cool looking car, but I don't think I would enjoy one ultimately, because yes, it looks awesome and there's an experience there, but I don't think it's going to deliver on the driving experience side. And that's what I've been chasing as I've gotten older. Is I put my time in Racing Club Motorsports. I was able to compete at a regional level, win regional races, you know, with like a moderate checkbook. I shouldn't say moderate, a minimum checkbook. But what I'm saying is not spending a ton of money to compete at a pro level. And, you know, I proved to myself that I'm capable of driving at that point. But, you know, the reason why I fell out of club racing, mostly spec Miata, is because I was spending a lot of money every weekend to win with new tires and double dipping in all the classes so I can just, like, you know, get seat time. And I'm driving the slowest car that I own, and it's just, you know, you're really just relying on cornering speed because there is no acceleration, and like, you know, oversteer on demand, it was just like not a thing in the Miata, and respect Miatas, I should say. So it just kind of became redundant, and it just felt like work. That's when I retired from racing. That's when I started like really just chasing the experience. I want to be able to drive both driving styles. If I need to go fast and corner, I want the car to be capable of doing that. You know, I do most of my driving on the street, so like you don't need to have every tenth in the suspension on the street where you have bumps and other things that are not gonna, you know, that's gonna be prohibitive versus if you're on a smooth racetrack. But I still want the car to be playful, because when you have a car that produces so much grip, it gets edgy when you start to get to that limit of grip, and you have to go that much faster just to kind of upset it and let it, you know, and exploit that limit to feel like you're doing something. And not everybody wants to do that, and I understand that too. You know, I'm not hanging big drifts on the street because there's a lot of risk in doing that, and I don't want to smack or crash anything up. But it's nice to be able to have a platform that, you know, if you got a little corner and you got a little bit of runoff room, you can hang the tail out and do like a nice graceful little power slide. I love that. To me, that's driving, right? That's engaging. It's fun. Feels like you're doing something. Like maybe this corner right here. Let's see. Just like that, where you have the line of sight, you can see, and you can do a little drifty room. Woo-hoo! Bumpy road. And I know you guys are going to ding me for crossing the yellow there, but just so you know, you get a good line of sight. I would never do that when I can't see around the corner, or you can't see if you could see there's oncoming traffic coming. But if you have the runoff, right, especially that corner there, you really can carry more speed just by going a little bit wider and entering at more of a straight line into that right-hander, especially at the speed that you're carrying coming up the hill, which was, I glanced real quick, I think I was at 110. It's fast, right? So if you try to stay on the inside and go into that corner, like there's a good chance you're gonna go in too hot and understeer into the oncoming where the corner becomes blind. So, you know, if you watch any of my videos ripping up that little section, you see me doing that, but that's why. But typically, no, I keep it in my lane. I don't like doing the double yellow stuff. So before you all yell at me, that's the reason why. That's one section where there's an exception. I'll go onto the doubles a little bit. Anyhow, with that out of the way, you know, just even that corner, right? Like you'll find these little opportunities to pitch the car sideways, and you could do it in a more controlled, safe manner and let it hang out. And I love that, man. That to me, that's the epitome of being a driver and having a driver's car, right? It just responds to your input. So if you want to be playful with it, the chassis gives you everything at your disposal to be playful. It's just awesome experience. So moving, and one of the biggest things I've noticed is I from my old wheel and tire setup, I got rid of the stagger and I went to a grippier tire compound because, you know, the tires I had on the other one, I'm always a little proponent for lesser grip on the street so you can have fun, but it was just really not enough grip, and I found myself being very limited. This combo, these Kumo PS91s, they were cheap because they were on sale, Tire Rack, and they offer more grip. They're not like 200 treadwear grip, but they're pretty close to it, and you can see it's cold, so that I'm going to be down on grip anyways. But the non-staggered setup, it just makes this car feel so much more responsive at the front end, where before, like, especially on track, if you watch any of my track impression videos of this, it's just a constant dance of understeer, oversteer. Now the front responds and the rear just rotates so gracefully, where on the stagger setup and a less grippier compound, I was often overloading the fronts and then using power and throttle to get the rear to break free. And it's just, you're just constantly doing that dance back and forth between understeer, oversteer. I don't know what else to say, guys. I mean, this thing, it's just so much freaking fun. and it's comfortable, you know, like you don't feel like you're in, as much as I love my Miata and my S2000, like those cars after a little while, man, they start to weigh on you. This is the gentleman's Hoon car. It's so good. Look at all this mustard. What happened here? Somebody was doing a massive rolling burnout all the way through that section, and there's tires everywhere. I wonder if they got home okay. Oh man, the throttle response is so good. I love throttle body cars. This is my third ITB car. When you count the white Miata and now the peripheral port Miata, there's just an experience that you get when you have throttle bodies with that instant throttle response, the induction noise, the sound of it all. You know, this is an electronic ITB setup in here, and it's just so good. I will say there is a sport button in this car, and all it does is tighten up the throttle response even more, but I hate it. And I'll show you this right now. If I put sport on, you cannot be smooth. That's just gentle tipping. It's just bucky, because it like snaps the throttle open from closing. I can't drive it smoothly with it, so I don't even mess with the sport button. With it off, you get the full range of the gas pedal. It's super responsive. I say if you own one of these cars, don't even touch the sport button, just leave it off. You're not missing anything. And that's the Z4M Coupe. Guys, like, tell me what you think right now, and with everything that's been out, right? What matches that kind of criteria of a comfortable, completely hoonable, like ready to party when you want it, but could still go fast, makes the noise. What car out there does that? And I think because these were so limited in their production, there was I always butcher the number, but I think it was 1,712 total for the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Super limited run of these, right? I think the reason why they're so slept on is because there just wasn't enough coverage of these set up properly. The suspension tuning out of the box was really wonky on them, and they weren't that awesome of a driver's car in stock form, especially with the stock alignment. They run 1 degree camber front, 2 degrees in the rear, and that is like super dangerous, especially when you combine it with a shorter wheelbase than the M3 and like a lack of suspension tuning, because these were all built in South Carolina in the United States. These were not built at the Magna Steyr plant in Germany like the E46 M3 was. So like there was some things lost in translation for when the American side was manufacturing these. They didn't tune the suspension properly, but you put a square tire setup on it, good set of coilovers, you dial in a lot of front negative camber, as much as you can go. I mean, I probably have 3.2 to 3.5 degrees in the front, and it loves it. Rear camber is somewhere around 1.6 at the moment. I tried to take as much out as I could with the factory adjustments. But man, the car is just transformed. And I've never quite experienced anything like it for anything that I've owned. You know, it really fits a niche because it's got that quiet European luxury to it, that playfulness, a high revving, naturally aspirated engine with throttle bodies. Like it's freaking cool, man. It's a cool ass car. I don't even know what else to do at this point to this car. Let me know what you think you would do from this setup other than just drive it and enjoy it. Besides brakes, we'll do the brake upgrade because I think that's pretty cool. That will take weight out too, having a forged monoblock caliper instead of the heavy single piston cast calipers. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this driving impression of my Z4M Coupe Project Gentleman's Hoon car, because we don't have a good name for it. But give us a like and subscribe if you like this content. Check out our web store on slipanglemedia.com. Help support us on there. And I'm linking the Turner airbox in the description below. If you want it, you could buy it through our link. That helps us because we have an affiliate program with Turner. That's a great way to help support our channel. You saw it here. We gave you the review on it and gave you the in-depth on it. So that is it for this one, guys. Thank you all so much. We will see you in the next one. Done.